Our next speaker is Pedro Malpica. Had an interesting chat with him just before the session earlier. I think we can learn a massive amount from Seville, where he's currently where he's a member of the Civilian Cyclist Assembly a Contramano. And he also takes part in a number of other social movements in the city. His career has developed in the fields of social research, training for trainers, community processes, and international aid. And I think the recent success in Seville in increasing mode share for cyclists probably be more appropriate to us in Ireland than looking at the big beasts in Northern Europe. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your presentation, and welcome.
Hello everyone, my name is Pedro Malpica. Thank you to Dublin Cycling Campaign and the organizer to invite me to tell you the story of what has happened in my city during the recent years. My organization is called A Contramano, which is in Seville. Well, Seville is, for those of you who don't know, it's the third or maybe the fourth city in Spain in terms of importance and size. It's in the southwest. It's the capital of Andalusia. And a contramano is a local expression that we in Sevilla use, not in many other parts of Spain, meaning counterflow. So we are counterflowing in many senses during the last 25 years. Next autumn we are celebrating our 25th anniversary as an organization, taking care and defending the rights of users of bicycles and urban cyclists. So this counterflow is because we use sometimes this, it's not legal in Spain, by the way. So we sometimes have these shortcuts using, I mean, not us in the association, every cyclist. When we have one direction road, but also politically, during the last 25 years, we have been counterflowing the mainstream tendency of defending only the cars, drivers' rights. I want to thank two members of my group, Ricardo and Manuel, because they have contributed a lot to this presentation. Why we talk about the case of Seville? What's that case? What has happened in Seville? Okay, as you see, in 2006, in a Labor Day, we had roughly 7,000 journeys by bike in the city. We had not big infrastructure, very little. We will see a map later. It was just some lanes not connected among them, by the way. And in a holiday, we had slightly less people using mostly bikes for recreational purposes. But something has happened in Seville in only 4 years, that here in 2009, we have multiplied by 10 the number of journeys on bike in the city. So my purpose here is to show you and to tell you some more information about this great change that we are so proud to tell. This is a model share in 2007. The changes had started only 1 year before that. So there you can see that the blue part is on foot, people walking. It's almost a third, roughly, of the journeys in a Labor Day, normal Labor Day in my city. The orange is by car. The yellow is public transport. Green is motorcycle. And a 3% is on bike. But the year before these data were collected, the modal share for bikes was only 0.2% or 0.3% approximately. So in only 1 year, it was a first step going from 0.2 to 3%. And the extrapolation was to try to, with that rate, we wanted to get in 2009 to 7%. So a lot of newcomers arrived to use bikes for the first time. after this change started to be applied in my city. But where did they come from? About a third have left their cars, which is very good news in terms of pollution, environment, and the quality of life and habitable cities. And also a 5% more are leaving the motorcycles. So we have roughly a 37% of people who have left motorized transportation as the main transportation in everyday life. An amount more or less like that, slightly bigger, have led public transportation, the bus. Those days, only bus existed in my city. Now we have also a tram system and an underground system, which was part of the change, by the way. But those days, only public transportation system inside the city was only bus. And 36.7% of people have left the bus as the main transportation, which is also good news in terms of management of public transportation. The demand has stabilized. So now buses are less crowded, investment in new buses is less necessary than before. And a quarter of new cyclists have left going on foot as a main of transportation. When we ask people, what do you use your bike for? This is what they say. And roughly, okay, there are a lot of answers here, but most of them, if not all, are utility reasons. So we don't have a system which is used mostly as recreational or sport oriented, but it's just transportation. So we say here, the biggest pieces of the cake are the study there on the left and work on the right, but also have tasks related to work, which is the blue 4% near the work big piece. Also shopping, 3%. This is very important because at first, shopkeepers and commerce associations were against this change in Seville. They were opposed. And part of the media, local media too. I know that we have also this example here in Dublin with some measures that the city government has taken. Some media maybe defend the above all car system, and they don't like changes in transportation at first. So local media and some shopkeepers' lobbies were opposed to this change. Now shopkeepers, this is the first year, for instance, that they have accepted publicly in a newspaper the fact that having pedestrianized streets and having a network of transportation with bikes and people who walk are increasing their business. A pedestrianized commercial street sells more than a street full of cars that people don't feel like very comfortable buying there. But they took 4 years or 5 years to understand that. I don't know why. We have another interesting 3%, medical reasons. We are not sure how many of those people are telling us that they went to the doctors or to the hospital by bike. How many of those are using bikes because the doctor told them so? So a new thing that's happening in Seville is that as cycling is becoming mainstream, when you go to the doctor and you have some disease, for instance, circulation, or the doctor thinks it's advisable you have physical exercise, before they only said you have to walk 15 minutes a day. Now they started to say, as something possible, feasible, and easy, why don't you go to work on bike every day? And that's happening every day in the hospitals or in the health centers when people go, and doctors have this possibility to tell patients, use the bike. Something they didn't. It would be like very risky for a middle-aged man or woman to say, okay, you're not going to risk your life in the aggressive traffic. It's not usual. But now everybody does, so why don't you? In any case, we see here that the motivations for using the bike are mostly for utility reasons. So, what is this change we are talking about? And what's the explanation? What have we done? Now we are going to see 4 maps. One of these maps is a different year. This is the cycle path network in Seville in 2006. 12 kilometers. And as you see, 12 kilometers that are not very connected. I mean, we are talking there about a city of 700,000 people, not counting the metropolitan ring. This map is only the city. Around the river, you see that the river bends. At the right of the bend of the curve, there is the historical center. They say it's the largest historical center in Europe. It's nice because most of the streets are medieval and very narrow, so they are very friendly for walkers and bikers. Of course, there are cars there, but they have to slow down because streets are so narrow. So it's a very walkable city, the city center, I mean. And out of the city center, okay, if you were around that big green line and you wanted to go to the green line up there, you have to cross the whole city without bike lanes. So these bike lanes were not useful at all. They were not connected among them. So this is what happened the next year. We had 77 kilometers, which they costed 18 million euros, and they are connected. We connected the previous networks and a lot new, the previous paths and a lot new paths, and as you see, there is no path not connected to the rest. So if you were at any point of the city and you want to go to the other point of the city, you could do it without leaving the lane in any moment. Here you can see in Spanish some interesting data. The number of stations of Cevici. Cevici is how we called the public share system. It's exactly the same as the one you have here in Dublin. It's just GCDECO, and it's a little bit wider, and we'll see later. But the number of stations in 2007 were 100, and we had 1,000 bikes to share, public. The number of long-term ticket holders were 3,500. And the number of bike stands was 684, which wasn't enough, as you can imagine, for a growing population of cyclists. 1 year later, we had 92 kilometers, and we increased the number of stations up to 200 and 2,000 bikes to share. The number of ticket holders increased very much, 15,000, and the number of bike stands was 1,400, roughly. This is what happened in 2010. We had a total of 120 kilometers, all of them connected, as you can see. We had 250 stations with 2,500 bikes to share, and the number of ticket holders was almost 70,000. In those 3 years, the number of journeys made by this public service was 13 million. And the number of stands for bikes was almost 6,000. So we had an infrastructure which was useful, more or less enough for the real needs of people who use bicycles. From where we took the space. First of all, as you can see, it's always marked in green. So it's very recognizable for users or for pedestrians or for drivers. It's a homogeneous colored and white. It's segregated from the road. It's a very safe. We are not exposed to motorized traffic. We're all the time protected from the traffic. And mostly the level of the ground for the path is at the same level of pedestrians' pavement. Why is this? There were researches before that showing that there was the need of a lot of people had bikes, but they didn't want to take the risk. So people were afraid of using the bike. So this is the reason of why it was chosen, this model of cycling paths apart, segregated. So we are talking about numbers of cyclists, but the numbers of cyclists are important. It has grown a lot, but also what type of cyclists. You can imagine what profile of cyclists were in the beginning. These 6,000, 7,000. One of those was myself. So we were a very little community. We were, if you can say, we have a more or less predictable profile. Urban, more or less young, a little bit outsiders. It happens in all the cities in Europe and in the world. At first, people who use the bikes are a little bit people who are out of the mainstream way of transportation. What people are using the cycle now, the cycle system now, and the infrastructures? At first, students, a lot of students, but secondly, we were really amazed that a lot of men with ties and suits appeared. And now we see housewives with their shopping bags full of food coming from the market, using their bikes. And old ladies and old men, and persons of all age, or all kind. So numbers are important, but also the type of people who are using it. We have opened the cycling system to all type of people, or maybe not all yet. There are some, curiously, ironically, a lot of people from working class don't like to use the bike yet, but I think it's something that we can solve in the future. So I was saying that it was a very safe, designed, it was designed thinking especially about safety for users. And we took the space from taxi and bus lanes, and you can see in the upper part of the slide. And also, sometimes we took it from places to park cars along the avenues. Here we have another example. There you can see the same street, left and right, and the place where there were car places, park places for cars, is now the bike lane. Here you can see more or less the system we have for bus stops. The lane comes behind the bus stop, near the pavement. So, and there are some places to cross for pedestrians from the pavement to the bus stop. So, this hard moment I've experienced the last 2 days in Dublin of riding my bike near a bus stop when the bus was coming or leaving the bus stop, we don't have it there. And before talking a little bit about the public bike system, Seville, let's do something that we are talking, one of the issues important in this day is the gender gap. Maybe we have heard about the 880 system. Some people propose a system of bike paths which are feasible for people of all age. A bike lane that can be used for a child 8 years old and an elder person 80 years old, and they call it 880 system. Okay, age is important, but let's think about gender, or let's think about another aspects or types of people. This safety system is very open for women of all age, for instance. Maybe the risky systems exposed to traffic are not very good for middle-aged housewives, but we don't have now, fortunately, this problem in Seville. So, very quickly, the public bike system, you can see there are some pictures and some data. The stations now are 2,260, and we have 2,600 public bikes. And the stations are throughout the city, including suburbs, all year, all day. 70,000 uses a day in March 2011, and 120,000 long-term ticket holders. This is the map. The red spots are the stations in the city for Seville, for public share system. And this is why, these are the reasons of why we think we had a success. The success of this public system is being too much, actually. Some people think it's about to die from success because the continuously growing demand is saturating management and maintenance. JC Deco is very angry to civilians because they are spending more money than they had thought when they signed the contract. This is true. They have stated this mostly publicly. It was very cheap. It's still cheap, not that much, but for the first years it was 10 euros, like I think like here. Now it's 70.50. But it was very, very, very easy to register, and it was cheap. Just two more examples. When this change happened, a lot of things happened almost spontaneously. Some offices, public offices, but also some private firms, started to make programs for their employees because there was a new thing in the city with bikes. So there were a lot of programs from schools, from hospitals, from firms, from factories, improving and giving facilities to people for parking bikes, etc. But I bring you here the two more important. The bus BC intermodality system, you can see there what it is. So people coming from villages of the metropolitan green, with their bus ticket, they have a free bike for the whole day in Seville. Then before midnight, they have to give it back. And the other one is the University of Seville, who has made a full program promoting cycling with their students, which is now the most important means of transportation of all students in the University of Seville, more than walking and more than cars. They have this space, which are closed areas. You need the university card to get in, because thefts was the biggest problem for students. They didn't want to use their bikes because there was a lot of thefts at the door of the universities. Now it's much better, and also the university gives 400 bikes to share to their students and also teachers. This is what we have learned. We don't have much time, but if you have a short view, this is our proposals. Of course, what happened in Sevilla doesn't fix the same to other cities, but there are some things that we learned from other cities at the beginning, especially Basque cities helped us a lot. Their examples were good to us when we had to decide, for instance, these two-way paths better than two one-way paths. And now, this is what the conclusions we have of our experience. And we have these strengths, these three strengths, but also we have these weaknesses. We are a section surrounded by nothing. There are a lot of conflicts with pedestrians because this safety system has made, we concede physically a lot with pedestrians, and they feel unsafe. Now this is something we have to solve. And there is not a political consensus on urban cycling. Unfortunately, some political parties made this change as a political weapon, so they still haven't understood that cycling is good for the left wing, the right wing, and everyone. So there are some right-wing right-wing parties in Spain who are, up to now, they're still a little bit anti-cycling, but they are starting to learn that a lot of people who vote them are using bikes. So that was all. I hope you like it. Thank you very much.